Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are back with another chapter for Midnight for Charlie Bone. So, this will be chapter 18, and that means we're only 4 chapters away from being done here. Thank you so much so far for being a part of this, and that together we can go through the book and finish it. Also, I'd like to mention, please check out my other content. I do have a couple of chapters of Percy Jackson and a couple of chapters of Magnus Chase on there, so please give those a listen and like, share, comment, subscribe, let me know what's going on. And definitely I would love to hear what you guys want to hear, but here we are. Let's dive in. The Red King. It was midnight when Payne rang the bell of Ingledew's bookshop. Of course, no one answered the door. And yet, Payne happened to know that Julia Ingledew went to bed very late. She had admitted that she often read a book until 2 in the morning. He rang again. A window above the door flew open with a bang, and Julia Ingledew looked out. "Who is it?" she said angrily. She saw Payne. "Oh, it's you. This is a fine time to come calling." "Julia, Miss Ingledew, it's not really me. Or rather, it is me, of course, but there's someone else who wants to see you." Payne stepped back from the door, gently drawing Emma with him. "Her name's Emma Tolley?" "What? I can't." The window slammed shut. Hasty footsteps descended a creaking staircase, and the door flew open with a loud tinkle. "Hello," said Emma. "Nancy." "Oh, you're so like Nancy," cried Miss Ingledew. Come in, and you, Payne. Oh, I can't believe this. Oh my goodness, I'm lost for words." Julia drew Emma into the shop. She stared at her, touched her hair, her face, and then she hugged her. "It's really you. Oh, Emma, how did this happen?" "I woke up," said Emma. "Charlie Bone and his friends helped me, and then this nice man brought me here." "Thank you, Peyton," Julia said fervently. "Come and have a cup of tea, or a glass of whiskey, or something. This is a celebration." She took them through to her cozy room behind the bookshop, and Emma stared at the shelves of rich, mellow books, their gold-tooled letters glowing in the soft light. She breathed in the smell of old paper and leather and print, and with a deep sigh she declared it to be the most wonderful room in the world. "It could be your home, Emma," said Miss Ingledew happily. "If all goes well. Unless you want to stay with the people who adopted you." No, cried Emma. "I never want to see that house again." "You must tell me all about it," said Miss Ingledew. "I want to know everything. And you, Peyton, I'm sure you've got a lot to do with this. Sit down. She rushed around the room, removing books and papers from the chairs, plumping up cushions and flicking dust from the lampshades. An hour later, Peyton made his way home. He whistled a merry tune as the street lamps flickered and crackled above him. He hadn't been so happy since he was 7 years old. Early, on a Sunday morning, Charlie woke up to find his uncle standing at the foot of his bed. "Great news, Charlie," said Uncle Payne. "I haven't been able to sleep a wink. Emma Tully is with her aunt, and we're going to make sure she stays there." Charlie sat up. "How did it happen?" he asked. Peyton told him how the Moons had taken Emma to the academy in the middle of the night, and how Manfred had locked her up. "But she got out?" said Charlie. "Yes," Peyton said slowly. "And at the moment, she won't say how. But Charlie, someone got wind of your little experiment. Someone betrayed you, and I think you ought to find out who it is." Charlie had a horrible feeling he knew. It couldn't possibly have been Benjamin or Fidelio, or even Olivia. He would trust all three with his life. That only left Billy Raven. "It's Billy Raven," he said. "I feel sorry for him, Uncle Peyton. He hasn't got any sort of home, and I think he's frightened of something. Did you see the car that arrived for him? It had smoked windows, and somebody inside struck out a cane and hit me." "The old man," Peyton murmured. "What old man? You mean Manfred's great-grandfather?" "I've got a few things to show you, Charlie. Come and see me after breakfast." Charlie got dressed and ran down to breakfast. He was surprised to find Grandma Bone in the kitchen, and even more surprised when she actually smiled as he tucked into his sausage and fried egg. Charlie was suspicious. He thought he'd get a lecture about breaking the rules. But perhaps she hadn't heard about Emma Tolley's escape. As soon as breakfast was over, Charlie went upstairs and tapped on his uncle's door. "Come in, Charlie." Uncle Peyton's voice didn't sound weary and cross anymore. Charlie could hardly open the door. There were books all over the floor. He had to tiptoe into the few empty spaces while his uncle directed him. "Not there. Yes, that's right. Mind that one, Charlie. I don't want to lose my place." "What's going on, Uncle Peyton?" said Charlie, alighting on a small gap in the papers strewn across his uncle's bed. "You asked me about the Red King, Charlie, and I've made strides, great strides. Miss Ingledew helped me to find some of these books." He indicated the huge, ancient-looking books beside his desk. "They're priceless treasures, really. I've yet to translate them all, but a great deal has already come to light. I've made notes. Listen." "They're in another language?" said Charlie. "Many languages. Now listen. The Red King came to these islands," meaning Britain, in the 13th century. They say he came from Africa, though from which part I can't be sure. He was called Red because of his scarlet cloak and the blazing red sun on his shield. One of his companions was a knight from Toledo, the city of swords. The Red King married this knight's daughter, but sadly she died when their 10th child was born. The Red King left his castle and traveled the land, mourning his wife. There are many accounts of his strange deeds during this period, of the storms he invoked, of his gift for healing, and for his accurate prediction of future events. It says here," Payne heaved a book onto his lap, "the Red King could, with his black eye, render powerless any adversary. In other words, he could hypnotize." Payne put down the book. "I could quote hundreds of instances of mysterious happenings, but what it all boils down to is that the Red King was a magician." "And all of us endowed ones are somehow descended from him?" asked Charlie. "Yes, but that isn't the end of the story." Payton leant forward, cupping his chin in one hand and staring earnestly at Charlie. "The king was absent from his castle for 15 years. He neglected his children, who had in various ways inherited some, but not all, of his many talents. When the king returned, he found that his children were at war." "At war?" "At war with their neighbors. They were using their talents to trick and to steal and to plunder, maim, and kill. The people in the surrounding countryside were terrified of them. Were they all bad then, those children? Asked Charlie. Indeed, no. Only 5 were bent on achieving power. The others left the castle. They disappeared into the country. Some even sailed to other lands, hoping to escape their terrible siblings, and reluctant to use their strange endowments. But they couldn't escape Charlie, because some of their children became wicked too, and often the children of the bad were born good. In this way, the families were bound together forever, never able to break free from their past. And so it has continued until today. Just when a family thinks it's cleared of wickedness, up pops a thoroughly bad one, with a talent to cause havoc. Peyton shook his head. So many warring families, so much heartache, so much distress. I'm glad I'm an only child, said Charlie. Peyton laughed. If we stick together, we'll win in the end, Charlie. He swung round to face his desk again. Yeah. Charlie stood up and began the precautious journey across the floor. When he reached the door, he turned and said, "What happened to the Red King, Uncle Payne? Couldn't he put things right, seeing as he had all that power?" "He'd left it too late," Peyton said solemnly. "He would have had to kill his children, and that he couldn't do." With his 3 leopards, the Red King departed from his castle and was never seen again. Although there are accounts of an invisible presence in various parts of the country. "You never said anything about leopards," said Charlie. "Didn't I? Well, there we are. I forgot." Payne gave Charlie a mysterious smile. "This afternoon I'm going to Ingledew's to help Julia with her arrangements for keeping Emma." "Do you think it'll work? Will Emma really be able to stay there forever?" "We'll make it work. The Blores won't want the world to find out what they've been doing. They'll have to give Emma up. As for the Moons, it doesn't sound as if they enjoyed being parents at all." Uncle Payne looked very confident. In fact, he looked like a new man altogether. Charlie left his uncle to his books and went across to see Benjamin. To his surprise, there was no one in at number 12, not even Renner Bean. It gradually dawned on Charlie that the Brown family had gone out for the day. All together. This had never happened before. Benjamin had always been at home, whenever Charlie wanted him. Charlie wandered down to the park, just in case Benjamin had taken his dog out for his first walk since the attack. But there was no sign of them. When he got home, he found Macy sitting in the rocker by the stove. "I don't feel very well, Charlie," Macy said. "I think I'll give food a miss today, and take a little nap." This was unheard of. Macy was never ill. Charlie watched his grandmother plod across the kitchen. What had happened to her? Over lunch, he and his mother had a long chat about Emma Tolley. "It's like a fairy tale." Sighed Mrs. Bone. "I hope it'll have a happy ending." "She doesn't belong to the Moons," said Charlie. "She hates them. She belongs with Miss Ingledew." "But can they prove it?" Amy Bone shook her head. "Who's going to believe stories about hypnotism and shining knights and ringing bells and Dr. Tully's message? No one will have to know. Uncle Payne says the Blores won't want other people to know what they've been up to, so they'll give up without a fight." "I don't believe that," said Amy Bone. "Someone will have to pay for what's happened. Be careful, Charlie. Don't worry about me, Mom." After lunch, Mrs. Bone had to go down to the greengrocer's shop. She'd promised to help with some of the packaging. "I won't be long, Charlie," she said. "Macy's upstairs if you need her." The house was very quiet. Uncle Peyton had already gone out. When Charlie peeped into Macy's room, he found she was fast asleep. He crept past Grandma Bone's door. He certainly didn't want to wake her up. He ran across to number 12 and found that the Brown family was still out. The air was very still and cold, and as Charlie crossed the road again, tiny snowflakes began to settle on his head. And then he saw them. 3 dark figures marching down the street. The U-Beam sisters walked shoulder to shoulder, refusing to give way, so that in order to avoid them, other people had to scuttle into the road. Charlie thought he might be able to run into the park before they saw him. But it was too late. They had increased their pace. They met outside number 9. "Charlie, how convenient," Aunt Lucretia said. "We wanted to have a little chat." "In private," said Aunt Eustacia. "Oh," said Charlie. As he climbed the steps, he heard them whispering behind him. They stepped into the hall, pressed their damp coats into Charlie's arms. "Nasty little bit of snow," Aunt Venetia remarked as she flicked Charlie's hair with her long nails. "Come in," called Grandma Bone from the back room. "Hurry up, Charlie. We haven't got all day." "I know," said Charlie, seeing as Aunt Lucretia's a matron and Aunt Eustasia's a minder. The 2 aunts gave him a very nasty look, but didn't say anything. It crossed Charlie's mind that he could quite easily run upstairs and lock himself in his room. But he decided he'd better get this unpleasant chat over with. So he dutifully hung up the moleskin coats and took his place at the table opposite his 3 U-Beam aunts. "Well, Charlie," began Aunt Lucretia, "you've been very busy lately, haven't you? Poking your nose in where you shouldn't," added Aunt Eustacia. "I hope you're not going to make a habit of it," said Grandma Bone. "I'm sure he's not," said Aunt Venetia, with a sickly smile. She folded her arms and, leaning them on the table, stuck her long neck out towards Charlie. "You were just trying to help a friend, weren't you, Charlie? We know all about Emma Tolley, and we know where Tolley 12 Bells can be found. It belongs to Dr. Bloor, you know." "It doesn't," said Charlie. "It belongs to Miss Ingledew, and you're not going to get it." "Oh, my!" Aunt Venetia threw her hands up in mock horror. "What a fierce boy! Tolley 12 Bells can stay where it is. We have no more interest in it, do we, sisters?" "None at all," they said. Charlie didn't believe them. Tolley 12 Bells had played its part in waking Emma, and there seemed to be no reason to keep it. But at the back of his mind, Charlie knew there was a reason. There was someone else to be woken up. He suddenly found himself saying, "My father isn't dead, you know." Grandma Bone's face went white. "What are you talking about?" she exclaimed. "Of course he's dead." "No, he's not, and one day I'm going to find him." "Is this what your uncle's been saying?" said Aunt Lucretia. "Payne is mad, you know, quite potty. He doesn't know what he's talking about. You mustn't have anything more to do with him." "Promise, won't you?" said Aunt Eustacia. "No," said Charlie. Grandma Bone banged her fist on the table. This was followed by several seconds of deadly silence. Charlie thought it was about time he left. He pushed back his chair and stood up. "Wait," said Aunt Venetia. "I've got a present for you, Charlie." She bent down and pulled something out of the large bag at her side. "Here you are." A brown paper parcel came sliding across the polished table. Charlie stared at it. "What is it?" he asked. "Open up." Aunt Venetia winked at him. Charlie swallowed. It had to be something nasty. He pulled at the string and the paper fell open, revealing a folded blue cape. "A cape," said Charlie. "But I've got one." "A dreadful tatty thing," said Grandma Bone. "Dr. Blore said you were to have a new one, and Aunt Venetia has kindly made one for you. And she's very good with her hands," said Aunt Lucretia. Aunt Venetia's smile was so wide, Charlie could see the lipstick that had come off on her teeth. "Thank you," he said uncertainly. "A pleasure." Aunt Venetia waved him away. "You can go now, Charlie." Charlie left, clutching his new cape. He ran upstairs and found that the tatty blue cape had been removed from his wardrobe. He examined Aunt Venetia's gift, but there seemed to be nothing wrong or different about it. Charlie mentioned the cape to his mother when she came to help him pack his bag. "It's very nice of Aunt Venetia," she said thoughtfully, "but not at all like her. I've never known her to give anyone a present, even at Christmas." "Perhaps they don't want to be ashamed of me," said Charlie, "seeing as Aunt Lucretia's a matron at the academy." "That must be it," said his mother. "The U-beams are a proud lot." But Charlie couldn't help wondering. And that is the end of this chapter. Woo! Here we are. We got 3 chapters to go. Yep, 3 chapters to go. I hope you enjoyed. Please, as always, like, subscribe, comment, share. Definitely check out the other books on the channel if you guys want to hear something that's enjoyable. I got Percy Jackson on there and Magnus Chase if you haven't already heard. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys later.